you remember the taste of a beer that defined an era? What if you could relive those moments with a sip from the past? The 1970s were a time of vibrant counterculture and experimental brews, where breweries crafted beers that embodied the spirit of their generation. Yet, amidst the sea of iconic brands, some beers have faded into obscurity, waiting to be rediscovered. Join us on a journey through time as we uncover 10 forgotten beers from the 1970s that deserve a toast and a second chance in the limelight of today's craft beer resurgence. Number 10. Lucky Lager. Lucky Lager, an American lager, emerged from the busy beer scene of the 1970s. Originally launched in 1934 by the General Brewing Company in San Francisco, this beer has an intriguing history. Eugene Selvage founded General Brewing Company with the aim of creating a beer that could compete with European brews. Their first product, Lucky Lager, made a significant impact upon its release. The company spent $1 million to build a state-of-the-art brewery in San Francisco. Designed by architect Frederick H. Meyer, Lucky Lager was crafted with great care, aged to perfection, and produced without any human contact until bottling, ensuring top quality. Lucky Lager quickly gained popularity. Advertisements promoted it as one of the world's finest beers, highlighting its German-inspired tradition and high-quality ingredients. By 1937, it had become California's second best-selling beer. People were attracted to its crisp taste and authentic brewing process. General Brewing Company expanded its operations, opening a second brewery in Azusa, California in 1949. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, the brand extended to Vancouver, Washington, and Salt Lake City, Utah, becoming a staple in the western United States. Additionally, General Brewing partnered with Coast Breweries in Vancouver Island, British Columbia, allowing them to enter the Canadian market and strengthen their position. Despite its early success, Lucky Lager's fortunes declined by the 1980s due to changing beer trends and consumer preferences. It struggled to compete with newer brands and eventually faced a decline. In 2019, Paps Brewing Company announced the revival of Lucky Lager, with brewing entrusted to 21st Amendment Brewery in San Leandro. While it may not dominate the market as it once did, Lucky Lager continues to be a nostalgic nod to a bygone era. Number 9. Fallstaff Beer. Fallstaff Beer, once a significant player in the American beer market, has a history that stretches back to the 19th century. The tale begins with Lemp Brewery, founded in 1840 in St. Louis by German immigrant Johann Adam Lemp. The Lemp family built their beer empire above the caves of St. Louis, and in 1903, the brewery was renamed the Falstaff Brewing Corporation, inspired by Shakespeare's character Sir John Falstaff. Falstaff quickly gained popularity and adopted the famous Blue Ribbon moniker. In 1898, they successfully sued the Storz Brewing Company of Omaha for using blue ribbons on their bottles, securing their trademark. During Prohibition, Falstaff adapted by selling near beer, soft drinks, and cured hams under the Falstaff name. When Prohibition ended in 1933, they celebrated by airlifting the first 2 cases of beer to the governors of Illinois and Missouri. The company's expansion continued as they acquired the Krug Brewery in Omaha in 1936, making Falstaff the first brewery to operate in 2 different states. Subsequent acquisitions included the National Brewing Company of New Orleans in 1937, the Berghoff Brewing Company of Fort Wayne, Indiana in 1954, and the Galveston-Houston Brewing Company of Texas in 1956. By the 1960s, Falstaff had become the 3rd largest brewery in America with plants nationwide. However, the ill-fated acquisition of the Narragansett Brewing Company in Rhode Island led to legal troubles. Although the Supreme Court ruled in Falstaff's favor, the company never fully recovered. Throughout the 1980s, Falstaff Beer faced declining fortunes due to industry consolidation, and the brand eventually ceased production in 2005. Number 8. Schaefer Beer. Schaefer Beer, brewed by the F&M Schaefer Brewing Company, has a special place in New York's beer history.
I seen these commercials on TV and I didn't believe it.
Its story began in 1842, when German immigrant brothers Maximilian and Frederick Schaefer founded the brewery in New York City. They introduced a lager-style beer that was new to the United States, offering New Yorkers a refreshing, cold, fermented brew. At the time, lagers were relatively unknown in the country. Schaefer Beer became beloved for its simplicity. It was easy to drink, affordable, and crafted from a classic blend of malts and hops. The Schaefer brothers' dedication to quality resonated with beer enthusiasts. By the 1970s, Schaefer had grown into a national brand, with sales reaching millions of barrels. New Yorkers and beer lovers across the country appreciated its consistent flavor and approachable profile. Interestingly, Schaefer set an unexpected record in Puerto Rico during this time, selling an astounding 13 million cases in a single year, showing its broad appeal. The success of Schaefer Beer was not just due to its quality, but also to clever marketing. Campaigns highlighted its New York roots and blue-collar appeal. The famous slogan, "Schaefer is the one beer to have when you're having more than one," became a part of American beer culture. Whether at baseball games, neighborhood bars, or family gatherings, Schaefer was a familiar presence. However, the 1980s brought a series of acquisitions, and Schaefer changed hands multiple times, losing some of its original charm. Eventually, it was acquired by Paps Brewing Company. While Schaefer is still available in select areas, it no longer dominates the national beer scene as it once did. Number 7. Paps Blue Ribbon. Paps Blue Ribbon, often called PBR, has a long and interesting history that goes back almost 200 years. Founded in 1844 by German immigrant Jacob Best in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the brewery was initially named Best Brewing Company. The beer we now know as Paps Blue Ribbon was first called Best Select. The name changed due to blue ribbons tied around the bottlenecks from 1882 to 1916. These ribbons were not awards, but a smart marketing tactic inspired by the blue ribbons given at county fairs. Pabst Blue Ribbon was never meant for the high-end market. Instead, it targeted budget-conscious beer drinkers, consistently delivering quality at an affordable price. In the 1970s, PBR was hugely popular, selling millions of barrels each year and becoming a staple at bars, picnics, and backyard gatherings. However, the beer industry changed in the 1980s and 1990s as consumers started preferring lighter beers and trendier brands. Pabst Blue Ribbon's image suffered, and it became known as the cheap option. Sales declined, and the brand almost faded into obscurity. Then came an unexpected comeback. In the early 2000s, a new generation of beer drinkers started looking for simple, no-frills options. Pabst's low price became its secret weapon. Its working-class roots suddenly became cool again. Pabst embraced its heritage, celebrating the everyday people who enjoyed a cold one after a long day. This clever marketing strategy brought Pabst Blue Ribbon back into fashion, making it popular once more. Number 6. Balentine XXL. Balentine XXL, brewed by the P. Balentine & Sons Brewing Company, has a notable place in American beer history. This beer's story began in 1840 in Newark, New Jersey, when Scottish immigrant Peter Balentine founded the brewery, initially called the Patterson & Balentine Brewing Company. The XXX in its name wasn't a hint of anything spicy, but referred to the 3 gold medals the beer won at international exhibitions in the early 1900s. The ale, an American blonde ale, was known for its easy drinking flavor and a balanced blend of malt and hops. In the 1970s, Balentine XXL was one of the prominent beers in the United States. Beer enthusiasts nationwide enjoyed it, and industry estimates suggest that sales reached about 500,000 barrels in 1970. Its consistent quality and approachable taste made it a favorite among many. However, the late 1990s brought significant changes for the brand. The Balentine Brewery was acquired by InBev, a major brewing company. Unfortunately, InBev shifted its focus away from Balentine XXL, leading to the brand's gradual decline. By the early 2000s, Balentine XXL was discontinued, much to the disappointment of its loyal fans. Despite its disappearance from the market, Balentine XXL remains fondly remembered by beer aficionados. Many still reminisce about its golden days, and there have even been whispers of a potential comeback. Number 5. Pearl Beer. Pearl Beer, a cherished Texas brew, has a history going back to the 1880s. Brewed by the Pearl Brewing Company in San Antonio, Texas, it became an iconic part of Texas beer culture. The Pearl Brewing Company, also known as the Pearl Brewery, was established in 1883 in downtown San Antonio, Texas. Initially, the brewery underwent several name changes, including the J.B. Belaradsky Brewery and the City Brewery. During this time, they discovered the beer that would define their legacy, Pearl Beer. The name Pearl came from the brewmaster at Kaiser Beck Brewery in Bremen, Germany, who noticed that the foamy bubbles in a freshly poured glass of the brew resembled sparkling pearls. By the 1970s, Pearl Beer had become a Texas sensation. Its German-style lager was smooth, easy to drink, and resonated with locals. The brand's down-to-earth Texan identity played a significant role in its success. Pearl's commercials featured real people enjoying a cold one after a hard day's work, reinforcing its connection to the community. The beer's popularity extended beyond San Antonio, reaching beer enthusiasts throughout the state, even in areas where alcohol consumption was restricted. Unfortunately, Pearl's fortune took a turn in the late 1990s. The Pearl Brewing Company was acquired by InBev, a global conglomerate. As InBev shifted its focus elsewhere, production at the original Pearl Brewery in San Antonio ceased in 2001. The end of an era left many nostalgic for the classic brew that had been a staple for decades. Number 4. Billy Beer. Billy Beer, a unique chapter in beer history, emerged in the late 1970s and captured national attention more for its backstory than its flavor. Brewed by the Falls City Brewing Company of Louisville, Kentucky, Billy Beer owed its existence to Billy Carter, the younger brother of President Jimmy Carter. The connection to the White House gave it a sense of novelty and intrigue. Billy, known for his colorful personality, fully endorsed the beer. Each can feature his signature and the proclamation, "I had this beer brewed just for me. It's the best beer I've ever tasted, and I've tasted a lot." The marketing campaign was as unconventional as the beer itself. Despite the hype, Billy Beer faced challenges. Critics found its taste unremarkable, failing to match the excitement generated by its namesake. This ordinary American lager struggled to compete with established beer brands. Additionally, the association with the presidency raised eyebrows, with some considering it tacky to link a beer to the highest office in the land. Nevertheless, curiosity drove sales, and for a brief period, Billy Beer became a household name. People wanted a taste of the presidential brew, even if it didn't quite live up to expectations. By 1978, the Falls City Brewing Company faced financial difficulties and decided to close its doors. Billy Beer vanished from store shelves, leaving behind a legacy of kitsch and political oddity. Collectors soon emerged, hoping to profit from perceived rarity. Newspaper ads offered Billy Beer cans for high prices, but the truth was less glamorous. Millions of cans had been produced, and their real value was around 50 cents to $1. Number 3. Drurys Beer. Drurys Beer, a cherished brew from the Midwest with roots in Canada, has a fascinating history that crosses borders. E.L. Drury founded the Lake of the Woods Brewery in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada in 1877, which later became Drurys Brewing Company. Drury's Extra Dry Lager, their flagship beer, gained popularity after Prohibition ended in the 1930s. This brew became the Midwest's go-to beer, winning over American drinkers with its crisp, clean taste and affordability. Drurys embraced its Canadian heritage, featuring a red-coated Mountie on its labels, a symbol that lasted for decades. The beer became a staple for working-class folks, earning a dedicated following. However, the 1970s brought significant challenges. Fierce competition in the American brew industry, with the rise of lighter lagers and more glamorous brands, overshadowed Drurys. Ownership changes added to the difficulties. During the Beer Wars, a period marked by intense rivalry and industry consolidation, Drurys struggled to keep up. In 1972, production in South Bend, Indiana ceased, and the brand slowly faded from the market. Beer enthusiasts were left nostalgic for its unique flavor and the iconic Mountie mascot. By the early 2000s, Drurys had all but disappeared. Number 2. Falls City Beer. Falls City Beer, a beloved Kentucky brew, originated from the Falls City Brewing Company, established in Louisville in 1864. By the 1970s, Falls City had become a significant player in the regional market. Its easy-drinking American lager won over beer enthusiasts, especially in Kentucky. The brewery's Little Colonel mascot, a dapper gentleman with a cane, became a familiar sight across the state, embodying the brand's playful spirit and local charm. However, Falls City's story took an unexpected turn when it entered the national spotlight. In the late 1970s, Falls City gained fame with the launch of Billy Beer, endorsed by Billy Carter, the brother of President Jimmy Carter. The marketing campaign was extravagant, with Billy's signature adorning every can. Despite the buzz, Billy Beer itself wasn't a smashing success. Critics found it lacking, and its cheaply made reputation didn't help. Yet, for a brief moment, Falls City basked in the limelight. Despite their spirited efforts, Falls City couldn't defy industry trends. Lighter beers gained prominence, and larger breweries consolidated their power. By the late 1970s, financial difficulties plagued Falls City Brewing Company. In 1978, they faced the final curtain call, and the brewery shut down entirely. This marked the end of an era, leaving behind memories of a beer that danced between local pride and national curiosity. Number 1. Hofner Refer Private. Hofner Refer Private Stock was a unique malt liquor brewed by the Hofner Refer Brewery in Jamaica Plain, Boston. Established in 1820, the brewery had a long history in the beer industry. Private Stock stood out from the typical malt liquors of its time by emphasizing secrecy and quality. Marketed with phrases like private formula and boasting a long-aged brewing process, it intrigued consumers with its mysterious allure. Nicknamed both the Green Death and Head Wrecker, the brew hinted at its potency, adding to its mystique. Despite these intimidating monikers, Private Stock surprised drinkers with a smoother taste profile, appealing to those looking for a potent yet approachable drink. During the 1980s and 1990s, the brand changed hands multiple times as new owners attempted to preserve its legacy. However, as consumer preferences shifted towards lighter beers, Private Stock struggled to maintain its foothold. By the early 2000s, production ceased altogether, and the once iconic Green Death quietly faded into beer history. Recently, there have been rumors of a potential revival for Hofner Refer Private Stock. Enthusiasts who fondly remember its unique flavor and storied reputation hold on to hope that the brand may make a comeback. For now, its future remains uncertain, but for those who cherish its legacy, the possibility of the Green Death returning offers a glimmer of optimism in the world of craft beers. As we reminisce about these 10 forgotten beers from the 1970s, which of these brews would you want to taste again today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed our trip down memory lane, and don't forget to subscribe for more nostalgic journeys.